of Esau usurped the control of Jacob's family bloodline. The twin sons of Isaac and Rebekah, Jacob and Esau, are described by the Bible in the womb of their mother as being locked in constant struggle and combat that you and I are experiencing today. The story goes that she could not bear the pain of her pregnancy, yet is told by God that she will give birth to two nations who will always be locked in combat, each one trying to overpower the other. Jacob was described as a dweller of tents. Esau, a wild hunter. Houston Stewart Chamberlain's thoughts were influenced by the writings of Gobineau, who said that for the superiority of the Aryan race, a word that was being used more and more to describe white people, but excluding Jews, who had non-Indo-European origins, his ideal was about a racial elite. The Aryan, or noble race, was always the superior peoples, and the inferior ones always struggled for survival in the evolution of man. So during his lifetime, this grew in popularity around Europe, this kind of thinking, especially in Germany. Born in England, Chamberlain was invited to stay at the court of Kaiser Wilhelm II. Later, this guy's ideas had a major effect on the German nationalist movements, like Hitler's Nationalist Socialist Party. During World War I, he wrote a bunch of propaganda books about Britain against his own country of birth. The Illuminati always plays both sides of the fence. This is what a lot of people get confused about. Chamberlain ended up being a citizen of Germany. And what's also interesting about him is that he's doing, or did, the same job as the Da Vinci Code author Dan Brown's doing today, confusing people about the lineage of Jesus Christ. Chamberlain used what's now a discredited idea of the ethnic makeup of the area of Galilee to argue that while Jesus might have been Jewish by religion, he wasn't Jewish by race. Because you see, during the Nazi period, they wanted to spread false ideas in order to manufacture a Jesus of Aryan descent. Chamberlain also wrote a book called Goethe. The book's got the same name as the Windsors in Buckingham Palace, before their name was changed from Saxe-Coburg Goethe to Windsor. The book defends Kaiser Wilhelm's reasons for starting World War I. The first edition of that book appeared in 1912. Remember, the Illuminati planned 3 world wars designed to produce Antichrist. Chaos. And out of that comes order. Chamberlain, by the way, was the son of an English admiral. Yeah. And the nephew of Field Marshal Sir Neville Bowles Chamberlain, as in Camilla Parker Bowles. His dad, Rear Admiral William Charles Chamberlain, planned a military career for him. And at 11 years old, he was sent to a boarding school for future Army and Navy officers. Hitler himself went to visit Houston Stewart Chamberlain on his deathbed in 1927. I researched his lineage to British Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain, too, and it came up with zip, although there's plenty of hints that he was. Remember, Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain, he was the one who placated Hitler and gave him everything he demanded, setting it up for the next Prime Minister to do his part, which was to go to war. Winston Churchill was that man. He's got a royal connection, too. His father, Lord Randolph Church, was the younger son of the 7th Duke of Marlborough. The Illuminati always play both sides. This is what confuses so many people. Don't let it confuse you too. Hey, if you're going to start a fight and need to guarantee the outcome, you have to control both sides. That's what's going on in Iran. I mentioned the father of Houston, Stuart Chamberlain, was a British field general. Well, there's a bunch of others that play both sides. Here's just some of the list of British field marshals besides Sir Neville Bowles Chamberlain. His Royal Highness Prince Leopold of Saxe-Coburg-Saalfeld was a British field general in 1816. So was Prince Francis Albert Augustus Charles Emmanuel of Saxe-Coburg-Gotha. So was His Majesty Willem II, King of the Netherlands, Aryan race. Garnet Joseph Wolseley, 1st Viscount of Wolseley of Cairo. Frederick Roberts, 1st Baron Roberts of Kandahar. These all British field marshals. His Imperial Majesty Nicholas II, Emperor and Autocrat of the Russias. His Imperial Majesty the Emperor Taisho Yoshihito of Japan, in 1918, was a British field marshal. His Majesty Alfonso XIII, King of Spain. His Majesty Birenda, King of Nepal. Philip Mountbatten, 1st Duke of Edinburgh, and husband to Queen Elizabeth II. Father to Prince Charles. Grandfather to Prince William and Harry. British field marshals. Spaceman, AM 640, Toronto Radio. Joseph Arthur Comte de Gobineau was the first guy chosen by the Illuminati to propagate this super race theory. Chamberlain, his disciple, was born 3 years after his death, perpetuated the myth. And on to Alfred Rosenberg. Check him out next on AM 640 Toronto Radio on A View from Space.
You're listening to A View from Space with the Spaceman, exercising the right to free speech while he still can. AM 640, Toronto Radio. The Man, AM 640, Toronto Radio.
I'm Space. This is A View from Space on AM 640 Toronto Radio. Taking your emails at space@640toronto.com or spaceman@640toronto.com. The third man in this super race propaganda trail is Alfred Rosenberg. His mentor, Houston Stuart Chamberlain. Alfie was the guy chosen by the Illuminati to influence the Nazi Party right at the beginning. Later, he also held some very high, important positions in the Nazi government. As a matter of fact, after that failed beer hall putsch, Hitler appointed Rosenberg as the leader of the Nazi movement. He held that position until Hitler was released from prison. He is considered the main author of key Nazi ideological creeds, including the racial theory. Rosenberg was also the Nazi Party's chief racial theorist, in charge of building a human racial ladder that justified Hitler's policies. All Rosenberg did was build on the work that Joseph Arthur Comte de Gobineau and Houston Stuart Chamberlain did. And you can throw in a few of Hitler's beliefs in there, too. Rosenberg considered blacks and Jews and other Semitic people to be the very bottom of the ladder. At the very top was the Aryan race. Rosenberg considered Nordic people to be the master race, superior to all others, including other Aryans. A clue for maybe who wins the Super Bowl? Nordstrom owns the Seahawks. This master race, according to the three Illuminati pawns, included the Scandinavians, the Germans, the Balts, the tribes of the British Isles, English, Irish, Scots, and Welsh. And Germans, of course, were proclaimed to be the superior Nordic people, the master race of the master race. The Thule Society, a serious and conscious reference to a Nordic polar connection in the effort to make a connection with the Hyperborean origins of the Indo-Germans, since Thule appears in ancient tradition as the sacred center or sacred island in the uttermost north. What became of Alfred Rosenberg? He was tried at Nuremberg and sentenced to death as a war criminal. Just another one of their own sacrificed at the proper time to perpetuate the plan. That's how the Illuminati do things. So Iran, next up. Heard of Operation Ajax? A complex plot orchestrated by British and U.S. intelligence. 1953. Iran had a democratically elected prime minister, Dr. Mohammad Mossadegh. The operation was conducted following the prime minister's nationalization of the Anglo-Iranian oil company. Yeah, he was going to nationalize the oil company. That oil company is now called BP, British Petroleum. So after the plot was successful, the Iranian monarchy was put on the throne, handing power back to the Shah, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, with money and power from the U.S. and the Brits. And the Shah built up the Iranian industry as well as crushing the people's civil liberties. And of course, that in turn got all the people upset. There was the Iranian Revolution in 79. They took down Pahlavi, put up the Islamic Republic. They allowed Ayatollah Khomeini to take over. Islam was now in control. Perfect! Next, how do you get the Western world to be the enemy? Well, you get a group of radical Iranian students to storm the American embassy in November of 1979 and hold 52 Americans hostage for 444 days to protest against Washington's refusal to hand over Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi for trial. That's what you do. The now president, Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, was in his early 20s at the time the embassy was taken over. Of course, he denies taking part in any storming of any embassy. He's the very guy who won Iran's runoff presidential election by a landslide last June. And just so happens that while watching that coverage of that election that day, 5 of those 52 Americans who were held hostage recognized him. Mahmoud Ahmadinejad was one of their captors. Former hostage Dave Roeder said, It stopped me cold in the middle of the room. I knew it. It wasn't one of those things where you think, gee, you know, that's a familiar face. I knew absolutely and immediately where I'd seen that guy before. 2 other former hostages, Don Scherer and William Doherty, also said they had got no doubts that Ahmadinejad was one of the guys that took the embassy